Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for August the 17th, 2020. Today I'd like to talk about the somewhat mixed bag of a weekend for Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, for those who don't know, is the leader of the opposition and by extension the Labour Party. He has had a semi-okay start. He's managed to put pressure on the Prime Minister and support him in some key areas, which has of course gotten backlash because you can never work with the enemy. And most of those Corbynistas, as most would call them, are no longer on the front benches. Minus one or two, but they learnt to shut their mouths very quickly, except for Rebecca Wrong-Daly. There are 4 things that have happened though that have taken my interest, and I thought we should go through those. First is that Jeremy Corbyn could in fact be booted out of the party by Keir Starmer as early as next month. This is of course dependent on the report into alleged antisemitism. This has been alleged by a former member of the Labour Party called Ian Hernan, who made the remarks in the wake of Labour's decision to pay substantial damages to several whistleblowers who were involved in the investigation by BBC Panorama. This included a number of employees, most of whom former. Labour have offered an unreserved apology, along with agreeing to pay the damages for what it acknowledged were defamatory and false allegations. Jeremy Corbyn's response to this was to be disappointed with the party's decision, which he described as being politically rather than legally motivated. He is supported by Len McCluskey, leader of Britain's largest trade union Unite, who described it as a misuse of party funds, and has hinted that he may well review spending ties with Labour. Not so long ago I made a video on the subject that this could have in fact bankrupted the party, i.e. the settling with those who had been victim of the alleged antisemitism. And we have also been waiting for that report for quite some time, so I am somewhat excited to finally get my hands on it when it is finally made public. But back to the loss of money. Do you think it was politically motivated? I think yes, but I also think it was legally motivated as well, as this did go through courts. It is a bit of both. Labour had very little option, because if they hadn't settled, this would have led to more accusations that they weren't doing anything to tackle. Therefore, yes, it is politically motivated, but as it had gone through courts, it was also legally motivated. Moving on from that, Keir Starmer has also nominated Tom Watson, former deputy leader of the Labour Party and MP who stood down at last year's general election, for a peerage, after he was excluded from the first batch of New Year's honours. The reason for that, by the way, was because Tom Watson had in Parliament raised concerns of a false accuser called Carl Beach, known by a different name. During that time he had anonymity. These accusations were levied at Sir Edward Heath and Harvey Procter, amongst many others, claiming that they had abused him along with others. This was of course after a £1 million investigation by Scotland Yard called Operation Midland, that then went on to prove Carl Beach was a liar and he went to prison. Rightly so, by the way. Tom Watson championed Carl Beach. He championed the accuser because the Conservatives were in government, and because a number of those MPs were Conservative. Therefore, there is this grey area, which isn't so grey at all. You shouldn't get a peerage for pushing and using your parliamentary privilege a false accuser as if they are telling the truth, cause the enemy. The Conservatives have done many stupid things. Perhaps hammer them for what they've actually done and not for what they have not done. But yes, Keir Starmer has pushed for Tom Watson to get a peerage. It is worth noting now, of course, that Tom Watson has apologised because, of course, him championing a false accuser has made many of those that have been falsely accused feel like he does not stand up for people and evidence. To go in a more positive direction, Keir Starmer has taken the right stance when it comes to A-level students after the fiasco of GCSE students in the United Kingdom. The UK is operating under a, air quotes, algorithm, where people have to input their postcode as well to ascertain roughly what your grades are because people are unable to sit examinations. How this can't be done during the summer recess is a mystery to me. But oh well, apparently a little extra work here is a no-go. This has led because of the GCSE issue to many people not getting the grades that they would have ordinarily got because they were being downgraded. This algorithm, many believe and I somewhat lean in their favour, assigns them a downgrade depending on where they live. This hasn't just affected those in poorer areas though. Other more prestigious locations, privileged if you will, have also suffered because of these downed grades. So Keir Starmer has taken the position that Boris Johnson now needs to take responsibility for the A-level results, because he believes, like I do, you need to turn to the teacher's assessments to means assess the individual student so that you can then ascertain what their grades would have been based on the work they had put in and not an arbitrary factor like your postcode. There is a significant uptick in the number of students going to university, yes, because those from the EU are no longer coming here. Therefore, there are more spaces, so universities may well allow those with lower grades to come here, but this might well hamper others who have to do a foundation year, especially if they want to get into a more complicated field like medicine, which is already a rather arduous and lengthy journey, when your grades have been hammered into the floor, instead of being means assessed based on what the teacher knows of you. So Keir Starmer's position is, yeah, we need to return to teacher assessments for A-level results and urgent action to avoid the same injustice for GCSE students. At least with GCSE students they get a second chance. You don't with A-levels. The final thing I noticed on Twitter yesterday was a hashtag #StarmerOut. Why was this trending, you all don't ask? Well, it turns out if you do something wrong, and it's against the grain, say you're a left-leaning politician, and you go and write in an article for a right-leaning newspaper, yes, people are going to rail you, even if you're taking a position that I would also agree with, and that is schools. Many parents are afraid. They're worried their kids could catch or spread coronavirus. I get that. But we need to start pushing towards normality regardless. Take all necessary precautions and push on. Keir Starmer has written a lengthy article for the Daily Mail via the Mail on Sunday, going into detail about how he believes, no ifs, no buts, students need to go back to school. And I agree with him. But many on Twitter did not, and insert unnecessary moral outrage and or panic here to then lead on to, look, he's wealthy, he don't know, he ain't left, he ain't, in it with swag, whatever. Get rid of him. Cancel Starmer, because he dare write for somebody else. I'm sorry, was this meant to go in The Independent? Because he still takes a position you don't agree with anyway, and then insert your tinfoil hat reason here. The children need to go back to school, get over yourselves. And cancelling Starmer this early? Really? He's the first legitimate test for Boris Johnson, and you want to get rid of him? Cowards. With what we've discussed here, I'd love to know what you think. This has been a mixed bag for Starmer, so please do let me know in the comments down below.